And confirm when you start, please. All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's hybrid New York City Council hearing for the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Siting, and Maritime Uses. To minimize disruptions, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you'd like to submit testimony, please send via email to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair Lewis, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting for the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Sightings, and Dispositions. I'm Councilmember Farrah Lewis, Chair of this subcommittee, and I am joined today by my colleagues, Council Members Felice, Marte, Nurse, and Ang. Today we will be holding a public hearing on a site selection for a new primary school facility submitted by the School Construction Authority. And then we will vote on that application as well as the Resilient Edgemere and 34 Morningside ANCP projects that the subcommittee heard at its meetings in May and June. I now recognize the subcommittee counsel to explain today's hearings procedures.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. This meeting is being held in a hybrid format. Members of the subcommittee are required to meet in person. Members of the public who wish to testify may testify in person or via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to testify via Zoom were asked to register for today's hearing. If you have registered to testify and are not yet signed into the Zoom, please do so now and remain signed in until after you have testified. If you wish to testify remotely and have not yet registered, please do so by visiting the Council's website at council.nyc.gov/landuse, LANDUSE. If you have written testimony that you would like the subcommittee to consider in addition to or in lieu of appearing before the subcommittee, or if you require an accessible version of a presentation given at today's meeting, please send an email to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number or the project name in the subject line of the email. Lastly, there may be extended pauses as we encounter, in the event we encounter technical problems. We ask that you please be patient as we work through these issues. Chair Lewis will now continue with today's agenda.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing on the pre-considered LU application number G220016SCX. This application was submitted by the New York School Construction Authority pursuant to sections 1732 of the New York School Construction Authority Act for approval of the proposed site selection for a new approximately 696-seat primary school facility located at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South, Block 3271, part of Lot 150 in the Bronx Council District, represented by Councilmember Dinowitz. Councilmember Dinowitz is not with us today. Okay, I know we have some SCA panelists here today, so I will now call on the first panel on this item, including Gail Mandro and Andrea Bender of SCA. Before you begin, I will recognize counsel to administer the affirmation. Thanks.
Please raise your right hands and state your names one at a time.
Gail Mandaro.
Andrea Bender.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this subcommittee and in answer to all council member questions? Thank you.
Thank you. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Lewis and council members. My name is Gail Mandaro, and I'm the Senior Director and Senior Attorney for Real Estate Services in the New York City School Construction Authority's Real Estate Department. Also with me this afternoon is Andrea Bender, Vice President of Development and External Affairs at the SCA. The New York City School Construction Authority has undertaken the site selection process for a new approximately 696-seat primary school facility located at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South, Block 3271 and a portion of lot currently known as Lot 150 in the borough of the Bronx. The site is approximately 21,810 square feet, roughly a half an acre. The property is part of the former Church of the Visitation campus, which consists of a paved parking lot, a vacant school building, and a former church, all of which are located on lots 150. The SCA plans to acquire a portion of the former church campus, namely the parking lot, to construct a new approximately 696-seat primary school facility. The site is located within Bronx Community District Number 8 and Community School District Number 10 in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx. The notice of filing for the site plan was published in the New York Post and the City Record on November 19, 2021, at which time Community Education Council Number 10 and Bronx Community Board Number 8 and the City Planning Commission were all notified of the site plan. Both the CEC and Community Board were asked to hold a public hearing on the proposed site plan. Bronx Community Board 8 held a public hearing on December 7th, 2021, and Community Education Council Number 10 held a public hearing on November 23rd, 2021. Public comments were received and provided with the submission to Council. The SCA affirms the site plan pursuant to Section 1731 of New York Public Authorities Law. In accordance with Section 1732 of the New York Public Authorities Law, the SCA submitted the proposed site plan to the Mayor and Council by letter dated July 6, 2022. We look forward to your subcommittee's favorable consideration of the proposed site plan and are prepared to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you. Do you have a slideshow that you would like to provide?
We did submit a slideshow. I don't know if you guys have it. We did share a couple of copies, though, of what the slideshow looked like to the committee if it didn't get transmitted.
I don't know if you want to review the slideshow with the committee at this time.
I guess not. We had sent it ahead of time. I guess it didn't
We
reach.
have printed out versions that the members have. It's fine if you don't want to go over
Okay,
it right now.
thank you.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it goes. You can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, I don't know where the clicker is. How do we click from here?
How do you control the slides? Okay.
Oh, so this is just introducing, this slide just shows you where the site is located, what the official address is. Next slide, please. That's just a current depiction of what the campus looks like today. If you'll notice where the yellow star is, that is where the proposed new elementary school will be located. It is going to be subdivided from the main parcel that you're visualizing in that photograph. Next slide, please. This is just the tax map off of the Department of Finance website to show that it's right now one tax map, one zoning map lot. It's going to be subdivided so that it will become 2 tax lots and still remain 1 zoning lot. Next slide, please. This is just reiterating what we just presented to you as our proposal, that this will be for the site that we are presenting to you today is for a 696-seat primary school, which will be approximately 21,810 square feet, roughly a half an acre, and will consist of part of the current Lot 150. The school is going to be located will front on Review Place, which is also known as John Collins Place, on the south side of Van Cortlandt Park South, west of Putnam Avenue, and the north side of West 239th Street in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx. The site, which is currently part of Lot 150, is a parking lot on the east side of Review Place. The property is part of the former Church of Visitation campus and consists of a paved parking lot, as we said, and a vacant school building, which will be part of the developer's lot, not the school lot. Next site, please. This is just a depiction of what the proposed site looks like from the south side of Van Cortlandt Park South. Next slide, please. And this is today's condition on the intersection of Van Cortlandt Park South and Review Place, which is where the school frontage will be. Next slide, please. Again, this is another view on the east side of Review Place, which is again where the school frontage is expected to be at this time. Next slide, please. Another view of the existing conditions from a different vantage point from the West 239th Street side. Next slide. And that's it. So we ask again, we review our request for a favorable vote from the committee, and we're happy to entertain any questions any of you may have.
Oh, and just wanted to share, we were just joined by Councilmember De La Rosa. I just have two quick questions, and I'm going to open it up to the committee. I wanted to know what factors were considered when selecting this site versus other potential locations.
It was the size and location of the site. We have historically had a funded seat need in that geography, in that council district. We had actually been pursuing this particular site for many, many years, and once it came on the market, we just couldn't pass it up. It's a great location for a school in a district that has a funded seat need.
All right. And in winter 2022, the proposal for this school site selection and development called for 696 seats. So how was your team able to add an additional 40 seats to this proposal?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning part of your question.
I'll repeat it again, sorry. In winter 2022, the proposal for this school site selection and development called for 696 seats. So the question was, how was your team able to add additional 40 seats to this proposal?
So when we initially did a feasibility study, which is how we determine whether or not a school could even be constructed on a particular parcel, we do rough estimates as to the best of our ability, but the seat need increased and the actual location and geography as we moved a little further along in test fit, we were able to garner a few extra spaces.
Thank you. I just want to open it up to any members that have any questions. Okay. Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Nurse.
Sorry, I don't recall. I mean, given that Councilmember Dinowitz is not here, I'm assuming he's supportive. Is this his district, right?
Yes, it's his district.
Is he supportive?
That's a good question. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And community boards?
I could answer that. We did appear before the Community Board and the Community Education Council, both of which did issue a favorable vote.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nurse. All right, so I'm going to excuse the panel. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation. Just wanted to ask council if there was any public here to testify on Zoom. All right, so being that there are no members of the public that wish to testify, this public hearing is now closed, but we will stand. Yes, there's somebody? Okay, we're going to check to see if there's any members of the public. Let's stand at ease for a second.
Just take this moment to remind the viewing public, anyone wishing to submit written testimony on this item can do so by emailing landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov.
All right, seeing there are no members of the public that are here to testify, this public hearing is now closed, but we'll stand at ease for the remainder of the hearing so we can get an update. So to members of the committee, we're going to take a recess for 5 minutes as we await an update. Thank you. You have something? Sorry. You have to go? Okay. All right, we're gonna proceed now to take 2 votes from the committee. Okay, we will now vote to approve the pre-considered LU related to the application number G220016SCX for the school site selection we just heard. We will also vote to approve pre-considered LU45 related to 34 Morningside Avenue ANCP cluster project. This application was submitted by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development pursuant to Article 16 of the General Municipal Law and Article 11 of the Private Housing Finance Law, requesting waiver of the designation requirement of Section 693 of the General Municipal Law, waiver of the requirements of Sections 197C and 197D of the Charter, approval for the project as an Urban Development Action Area project, and approval of an exception from real property taxation pursuant to Sections 577 of the Private Housing Law. These actions will facilitate the renovation of a cluster of partially occupied city-owned residential buildings and their conversion from rentals to co-ops owned by the tenants as part of HPD's Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, also known as ANCP, the most controversial program, I would say, in the city of New York. Okay, according to the project summary submitted by HPD, existing tenants of the buildings will be able to buy their units for $2,500, while new tenants will be able to buy in prices affordable to families earning 100% of the AMI. The monthly maintenance for these units will be set to rates affordable to families earning 40% of the AMI. All buildings would be exempt from the real property taxation for 40 years. The buildings are located in Council District represented by Councilmember Richardson Jordan, who has secured a hard win commitment from HPD that tenant associations of these buildings may opt out of the ANCP program if they so choose within 90 days of full council approval of these acts. Did I say another? Okay, sorry. Within 60 days of full council approval of these actions. Councilmember Richardson Jordan couldn't be with us today, but she did provide a statement that I can read to everyone. Thank you. After multiple, this is on behalf of Councilmember Richardson Jordan. After multiple meetings and discussions with the Tenant Association for 34 Morningside Avenue, HPD, and land use, it was made clear that valid concerns surrounding the ANCP project for some must be heard. For those in 34 Morningside, the original promise of home ownership under till remains a reasonable standard. I believe it is our duty as a city council to work to honor this past promise as closely as possible through both means outside of ANCP and also altering the current program to mitigate potential harm for those within it. It remains concerning that ANCP interjects private profit while also increasing the financial burden for original tenants. Hence, I am glad that 34 Morningside has been removed from this proposed project and their objections have been rightfully heard. There also remains real needs of some living in untenable conditions and others desperate to return to their original buildings from which they have been removed. This is the case for those residing within the other buildings composing this proposed project. These tenants have articulated the desolate state and have shown little desire to wait any longer for their fundamental human rights to be met. It is shameful that the city has disinvested and neglected these buildings and the tenants within them for so long. And it shows a complete lack of care, respect, and common decency. For this specific project, which has been in development for over 4 years, the needed renovations can be delivered most timely through current plans of ANCP conversion. The tenants in the remaining buildings have made it clear that this is a priority and wish to proceed, and I am in full support of their self-determination. In addition, I am relieved by the involvement of Habitat for Humanity within the project to ensure that the needs and wishes of tenants are being incorporated and respected by the chosen developer. It was essential that the amended project allowed for my constituents' differing opinions and desires be honored, and because it now does, I am in support of this project and hope the committee will approve. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna stop there and hand it over to okay. With the approval of the affected council members, I will now call for a vote to approve preconsidered LU related to application number G220016SCX for the siting of a new school, and to approve the proposed LU 45 for the 34 Morningside Avenue ANCP cluster. I vote aye.
Councilmember Feliz.
I vote aye.
Councilmember De La Rosa.
Aye.
Councilmember Marte.
I vote aye.
Councilmember Nurse.
Aye.
Councilmember Ung.
Aye.
Chair, the vote currently stands on the items for the preconsidered SCX item and preconsidered LU 45, 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, no abstentions. We will keep the vote open.
Thank you, everyone. So we'll keep this vote open, but we'll take a quick recess on the last vote for Edgemere. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to the meeting on the subcommittees on landmarks, public siting, and disposition. I am Councilmember Rafael Salamanca, Chair of the Land Use Committee. Chair Lewis had to leave, and I will be chairing the remainder of this meeting as the acting chair. We will now vote to approve with modifications LU 67, 68, 69, 70, and 71 for the Resilient Edgemere Community Initiative, which the subcommittee heard at its meeting on June 7th. These applications submitted by HPD include the following proposed actions. LU 67 for a zoning map amendment, LU 69 for a zoning text amendment, LU 68 for a zoning text amendment, LU 69 for the proposed disposition of city-owned property for uses identified in the Edgemere Urban Renewal Plan, LU 70 for the designation of an urban development action area and approval of an urban development action area project for such areas, and LU 71 for approval of the Second Amendment of the Edgemere Urban Renewal Plan. The proposed project area is conterminous with the Edgemere Urban Renewal area generally bounded by Beach 35th Street to the east, Rockaway Freeway and Rockaway Beach Boulevard to the south, Beach 50th Street and Beach 51st Street to the west, and Jamaica Bay to the north, across 166 acres within the Edgemere neighborhood of Queens, represented by Majority Whip Brooke Powers. The proposed action would implement several goals and recommendations of the Resilient Edgemere Community Plan, an interagency community plan initiative conducted between 2015 and 2017 in the wake of Hurricane Sandy. Key among the goals of that plan are protecting the neighborhood from flooding, creating resilient housing and maintaining the neighborhood's low-density feel, improving streets and transit, and increased neighborhood amenities. In addition to creating open space and reducing the density of new construction closest to the waterfront, the project I submitted to the council was conceived to create over 1,000 residential units, including over 600 as affordable rental and home ownership units on land currently owned by the city. A modification would be to reduce the proposed rezoning area by removing one block in the western portion of the project area and the corresponding deletion of that block from the newly proposed MIH area. I now recognize Majority Whip Brooke Powers to offer remarks on this project.
Thank you, Chair Salamanca, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we buttoned up this land use action item. I'd like to speak on the items being heard today concerning the Resilient Edgemere zoning proposal led by HPD. I've said all along this project had some really good elements. However, there were areas that my community had major concerns with, specifically the increase in density to a peninsula with a high water table. The plan includes significant changes that will see downzoning by our shoreline, which is much needed. It also presents an opportunity to bring much needed economic activity in a place right now that does not have that. Last week I held district budget briefings where we received a great deal of feedback from my constituents and provided updates on the work we've done on this particular item. The community is emphatically looking to reap the benefits committed to them from the city when they made their purchase over 20 years ago. And it is in my interest that we see this project through and ensure that we meet the needs of the community. Rockaway has seen a surge of new development in recent years, but the development has not always been commensurate with investments in local infrastructure, transportation, health, and the like, just to name a few. And so I'd also like to recognize the fact that Rockaway is in dire need of a new trauma facility. Following the closure of Peninsula Hospital last decade, we have had scarce access to quality health care. Sites like St. John's Episcopal fill some gaps in coverage, but they don't go far enough. For many, the closest trauma care facility is a long drive to Jamaica Hospital. In just the last year, too many families have lost loved ones. Justin Wallace to gun violence, Davina Afakobi to traffic violence, and firefighter Jesse Gerhard in the line of service. And so when lives are on the line, a trauma center on the peninsula can mean the difference between life and death for many of these people. Another big piece for me is the need to support affordable homeownership opportunities for residents. I have long said that homeownership is key to building generational wealth, particularly for communities of color. To that end, it is critical that this project include protections for affordable homeownership opportunities to preserve and maintain the way of life of Edgemere residents in which they have come to love about their neighborhood. These are just some of the key pieces. And after extensive deliberation, I am pleased with the final results that we were able to achieve with the administration. I'd like to take a moment to thank Speaker Adrian Adams, Chief of Staff Jeremy John, First Deputy Chief of Staff Faiza Ali, the land use team led by Paris Slaughter, my own policy director, Alex Hunter, for all of the work and attention placed on making sure that this project did not leave behind the voices of my community. We were able to secure a number of commitments from the administration that will bring condominium homeownership with the financial support that our residents need, prioritizing the local community. We were able to receive commitments on infrastructure repairs because we cannot pass housing rezoning without taking into account infrastructure. It would be irresponsible. So I am pleased that the administration is committed to working with me to seeing this through. And so with that, I ask my colleagues in the council to please vote in favor of this action item.
Thank you. Thank you, council member. With the approval of the affected council member, I will now call for a vote to approve some modifications LU 67, 68, 69, 70, and 71 for the Resilient Edgemere Community Initiative. Will the clerk please call the roll? And I'm going to ask that you please call on council member Sandy Nurse first.
Councilmember Nurse.
I vote no. I've given my considerations to Councilmember Brooks. Thank you.
Councilmember Felice.
I vote aye, and I congratulate Councilmember Sabina Brooks Powers, Majority Whip, on the well-negotiated agreement.
Councilmember De La Rosa.
Aye.
Councilmember Ung.
Aye.
All right. That concludes today's business. I remind you that we have written testimony on today's items. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Councilmember Marte.
I vote aye.
All right, thank you. That concludes today's business. I remind that if you have written testimony on today's items, you may submit it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number or the project name and subject heading. I would like to thank the applicants, member of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use staff, Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's hearing. We're going to leave the roll open for about 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'll do the tally.
Yes, please.
Vote currently stands. All items today were approved. 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, no abstentions, except LUs 67, 68, 69, 70, and 71, which were approved by a vote of 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and no abstentions, and are so referred to the full committee.
Thank you. We'll leave the roll open for 5 minutes. All right, I want to thank everyone for attending today's hearing. This meeting is hereby adjourned.